What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Sherwin Williams plant explosion, and specifically, how is this going to impact their consumers? But before I get too far into the video, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has been subscribing and supporting the content. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell icon. That way you can be notified anytime we release some new content. Now, let's talk about the Sherwin Williams plant explosion. First of all, I want to say that my condolences go out to the families of those that were injured, and also Sherwin Williams as a company. I don't know about y'all, but I get all of my paint from Sherwin Williams. Whenever COVID was just wrapping up is actually whenever I got started in my business. I understand that during the time of COVID, the acquisition of paint was somewhat difficult. But as COVID began to pass, that's when I started my business. Sherwin Williams, since I started my business, has always had paint. Now, I might have to drive around the city to pick up a certain kind of paint, but nevertheless, Sherwin Williams always has the paint that I need in the general area so I can satisfy my customers, because I depend upon them as a business owner to supply me with the product necessary. That way I can take care of my customers. Now, I know that there are several other paint companies that are in my area that I'm sure are very reputable and dedicated to their craft. But since day one, when I started my business, I've always went to Sherwin Williams. So to hear something like this at a place that I go to probably 2 to 3 times a week is very troubling for me as a business owner. I think if you're in the striping business, if you're in this industry and you get your paint from Sherwin Williams, I think we're all asking the question, how is this going to affect my pricing? Is my pricing going to go up? In the Discord chat earlier today, people were talking about their paint prices, and somebody said that he was paying $160 for 5 gallons of paint. Well, I'm paying $120, and I haven't picked up a supply of paint since this took place. And I haven't called my paint rep yet to see if the prices are going to increase. But that's a legitimate question. Are the prices going to increase? And what does this mean for the business owners that are in that area? All this stuff is really important. And I believe that it's necessary to put out striping content, but it's also important to put out information like this, because these types of situations need to be covered as well, because this doesn't just affect one business. This affects multiple businesses, especially in the Garland, Texas area, for sure. So with that being said, I want to read this article. Let's see what they have to say. Garland, Texas. Crews worked to put out flames at the Sherwin Williams paint plant in Garland, Texas, east of Dallas. There were multiple explosions there overnight. The facility on Shiloh Road caught fire just after 1 a.m. Monday. Firefighters don't know yet what sparked it, but said the flames caused several explosions that rocked nearby homes and businesses, including the Garland Police Headquarters. People who live and work near the facility, located off Shiloh Road near Forest Lane, said that they were literally shaken awake by the series of blasts that began just before 1:30 in the morning. It felt pretty hard, like the whole house shook. I thought somebody was trying to break in or something. I didn't realize it was something else until somebody told me, said Giovanni Gamboa, who felt the explosions from miles away. I felt the shake. I came and investigated myself. I didn't expect it to be something this far away. It's amazing what great of an impact that this had, not only to the people in the surrounding communities, as we're reading right here, but people that weren't even immediately close to the plant. Imagine waking up to that. You have this explosion take place. So much so that it shakes your entire house in the middle of the night. Crazy stuff. Let's keep reading. Dave Casper was at work next door at Ashton Global and said that he felt particles from the ceiling falling around him. All we saw was this big explosion, this big fireball. I mean, the whole plant at Sherwin Williams was engulfed in flames. Casper said his main goal was to get his coworker and himself out of their building safely. I went right into reactive mode. Whenever you hear a blast or a disaster like that, your adrenaline kicks in, and you just take what you believe is the right thing to do every time, he said. We're probably 150 feet away from where the blast took place, so we're not that far. The building is only about 50 feet on the other side of the fence from our location, so there's not much room between us. This is firsthand witness and testimony of somebody that was 50 foot from the other side of the fence where this blast took place. Imagine that. As we go on, the Garland Fire Department responded within minutes and called for extra personnel immediately. A spokesman said firefighters working on 16 apparatus, including 9 fire trucks, were able to get the fire contained within an hour and a half. So that's good. It didn't just burn all night long. They were essentially able to contain the fire relatively quick, which is good. This is an industrial building in an industrial area, but within radius of homes, said James Duggar with the Garland Fire Department. Officials said one Sherwin-Williams worker was treated at the scene and then later taken to the hospital for minor injuries. Thank God that no one was killed in this. Thank God that no one had to wake up the next morning to hearing that their relative had died. That's great. As we keep going, the rest of the employees were evacuated and accounted for. Forest Lane between International and Shiloh Road was closed to traffic for hours, causing trapped tractor trailers to sit idle. There were no evacuations, but people who live in the area were asked to stay indoors because of the burning chemicals. Jim Norris, who lives nearby, said he and his wife will be wearing masks as a precaution. Her being on dialysis, being diabetic, chemical fumes are definitely not something you want to smell or anyone to smell, he said. Very lucky with chemical plants, you never know. They could do massive harm. These explosions were unreal. And there is an element of truth to that, because there are certain types of paints, if not all paints, that you don't want to directly inhale. So I can understand their concern, especially with the chemicals and the fumes that are in the air. That's legitimate concerns for sure. Officials say that the Richardson Fire Department hazmat team will monitor the situation as the investigation into what sparked the fire plays out. The city has requested assistance from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, and the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. The EPA has also been asked to conduct flyover monitoring assessments. It goes to show that there's a lot of people getting involved. And that's not always a bad thing. That's a good thing. But here it says the city says test results show that there is no need to evacuate the surrounding area, so it must not be that bad. If the tests identify any hazards, the city says it will immediately notify the people in the affected areas. So it looks like although there was a massive explosion, only one person sustained any injuries. Everybody else was evacuated, and the only thing that was damaged was the Sherwin Williams plant. Now, we don't know how big that plant is. I don't know how big that plant is. I don't know how much paint they produce, but it's got to be a lot. And not just like an actual Sherwin Williams store where you pick up your paint. Is this going to slow down paint production or drive prices in these immediate areas to go higher? I don't know. Anyways, have you heard about this? Have you heard about the Sherwin Williams plant explosion? If so, leave a comment down in the comment section. Let me know, what do you think is going to take place? Do you think that we will see a spike in prices? Or do you think that prices are going to remain the same? Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you in the next video.